There we go. Good morning, good morning. How's it going, guys? Nice to have you with me. Big session today, big session today. I'm glad you joined me because we got some things taking place in the markets right now that I wanted to discuss with you. Some earnings have been coming out lately. We got some big gaps, gap ups, gap downs, and so I wanted to discuss those with you guys today. But let's start by hitting the like button on this video so that we can get those numbers up, and then we'll jump right into it. If you take a look at my chart, you'll see that I have a chart of the S&P 500, and the reason being is because we want to get a good gauge of whether or not the banks are buying, selling, and if they're doing this long term, medium term, short term, very short term, and so forth. So we're going to be taking a look at that today. And something big just happened right now as I was about to start this session. If you take a look at the 1 hour time frame, you can see something big is happening. Okay, we got a big spike up, but where did this spike up take us into? It took us right into an area of supply. So let's open up this chart here and show you that. Here's a 1 hour time frame, and as you can see, I have drawn a zone here, right here. And this is where the big drop in price took place from. Okay, this is big institutional selling that came in to the markets right here. And so if you draw the zone across, you'll see this is the area where the big selling was coming in from. So we got a nice spike up just recently. We got a nice spike up right into this area, and now we are expecting to see some short-term momentum to the downside. Okay, so any day traders out there that like to trade the markets and they're looking for some short-term momentum, this is what I'm seeing here right now. Okay, this is what's happening right now. So that means the odds are we see a big drop in price. Does that mean price is 100% going to drop? No, it doesn't mean that, but the odds are stacked in our favor that if there is going to be a move, it's going to be a move to the downside. All right, so that's looking pretty good right now with the S&P. So if you're trading stocks that are heavily correlated to the S&P and you see some moves to the downside and you're long those stocks, don't fret, okay? Because short-term move to the downside is what we're expecting. Overall, we have significant buying taking place in the markets here, very significant, okay? And if I open up the daily time frame, you can see this significant area of buying here. Let me just sneeze and I'll be right back. Bless me. All right, so take a look here on the daily time frame. This is an area that I have already pointed out to members. It's extremely significant, and it's something that needs to be shown to you guys right here. This is an area where the big institutions came in and they started buying, okay? And we've seen stuff like this happen a lot, all right? Where they come in, they buy, and then we get multiple tests of that area. And the reason we get multiple tests many times is there's an accumulation. Every time they dip into this area, they accumulate, okay? Right here, some big event took place where a lot of retail traders, those that are not trading alongside big institutional traders, they come in and they were lured into shorting. Okay, so they're selling as the banks come in and buy. And they bought so much that they're actually holding this area of buying up. Okay, so if you take a look, even though there was some major selling taking place, they actually end up holding this area of buying up. All right, so I want you to be aware of that because as long as this zone holds, we expect price to eventually go higher, okay? Now, I know you're thinking, well, sure, if this area holds, right. Obviously, it's going to go higher if it holds, right? But this is the key area, okay? It's not this area here. 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 It's this area here, okay? That's how precise you can be when you know where the institutional buying and selling is taking place, all right? If this area gets taken out here, folks, okay, if this area gets taken out here and we see some very nice structured trading to the downside, not this. This is not well structured, okay? There's a difference between well structured candles and improperly created candles. And we could tell the difference between institutional trading and when retail come in with significant selling. If the banks come in with significant selling and they remove this area, they're essentially telling us that they're going to be focusing their attentions on pushing price to the downside. And we can easily come down to this area here. This is the next area where there is significant buying, okay? So we'd be watching this area next if price was to come down to this area, okay? And there could be significant buying from this area if they were to drop price there, okay? But we would watch for those signs to present themselves, all right? So this is what's happening on the S&P, all right? You're holding stocks. You see some downside pressure. I wouldn't fret because overall, we're seeing very significant buying taking place, all right? Now, with that said, I'd really like to go through the, you see the selling now? Okay, you see the selling taking place? Okay. I want to go through the Magnificent Seven stocks with you, just to show you what's happening with these individual stocks as well. Apple, we see recently broke to the upside with a decent move, okay, pretty decent. But what most people don't realize or don't recognize is that this move to the upside was extremely significant. And the reason being is because we had a major selling area here on the monthly time frame, major selling, which means price could have easily come into this area and we could have easily saw a major sell-off take place from this area. But instead of them selling from this area, they have taken out this area, which is bullish, okay? This is a very bullish move that we're seeing here. Now, do I like the area where this move to the upside originated? Not really, okay? And there's a difference between an imbalance in price and a significant area of buying where we would want to look for an entry into a long position from. I don't like this area. If price was to come down to that area, I wouldn't be very optimistic about a move coming up from there. But one time frame lower, I am very optimistic about this area here, okay? So this area was where the big move began to the upside to remove that monthly area of supply. And I think that this is a great area to be watching for significant buying if price was to come down here. I would really prefer that price drops down in there, to be honest with you. I don't like trading at all-time high scenarios. I don't like that unless there's significant buying coming in and price is dropping into areas of those buying zones. On the daily time frame, this is the buying zone here, okay? And as you can see, we have a trend line here. And one thing that I will tell you about buying, when the buying zone is located right at a point where a trend line is connected, as you can see, there's a trend line right here and there's a zone right here. If price were to come down to this zone, it would not be of good quality. So this is not an area of interest for me, okay? If the banks were to come down to this buying area, I would not be interested in buying there simply because of this, this formation of where the trend line is and where the demand zone is. So that's why I am really keeping my focus on the weekly time frame. And this is good because if price does drop down to this area, this tells us that over the medium term, okay, which is many weeks, we suspect that there will be a significant move to the upside. Now, obviously, we're going to watch to see when price gets down into this area. We're going to watch to see if the banks do come in with more buying, and we'll be able to spot that. We'll just look at the lower time frames and we'll be able to see the supply and demand dynamics that play out on the lower time frames. And when they start coming in with buying and start removing selling areas, then we know that they're more interested in the short-term buying. And if they're short-term buying off of a medium-term buying zone, then you know we are likely going to see a bigger push to the upside, okay? So this is what's going on with Apple. It's not ideal for buying now, but let's wait for it to settle down and drop. Amazon, well, This one is very interesting. It hasn't been doing much over the last several months. As you can see, price rallied up, came down, held this area, rallied up again, and it has not surpassed the previous highs. Now, on the weekly time frame, we did locate this area of buying. It's not the greatest area of buying, but it's an area of buying nonetheless. And there is a good chance that they are accumulating a position right here, okay? Because as you can see, every time they come into this area, they hold this area with significant buying. Last time they came in here, look at the buying that took place here, okay? It was pretty significant. And so now they're coming back inside this buying area, and they are buying one more time, all right? So RSI is very strong, well above 40. That's indicating to us that there is buying pressure, all right? Take a look at all this down here. As long as the RSI stays above 40, that is buying pressure. If it's above 60, it's significantly bought, and we'd expect to see a sell-off or some profit taking. And as you can see, that happened back here, okay? When price entered into the over 60 RSI range, they needed to take profits, which fueled a move to the downside. So significant buying, yes, but it wasn't significant enough for major profit taking. So this is a good sign for a potential move to the upside. That could go much higher, all right? Because again, like I was saying, we're dealing with a weekly time frame, all right? So that means over the long term, we could start seeing price build to the upside. So we're going to be watchful of that, and we're going to look for potential trade signals, okay? Here's the area of demand down here. So as you can see, there is a nested daily area of demand here, which got contacted. We're contacting it again, and we're seeing a move to the upside. So I'm going to be watching this, looking for an entry, because I think there's a very good chance we'll be seeing a move to the upside from here, okay? Google. We watched this one. We had a trade signal here. It did not work. Unfortunately, we got stopped out with this big wick to the downside. And sure enough, look, afterwards, we got a big spike up. Supply was created here. This is short-term supply. Price came into the short-term supply and dropped again. So would I be interested in going long? Sure. Of course I would. The reason why I went long the first time was because I'm seeing signs that the institutions are buying, okay? The last major area that was hit was on the daily time frame right here. And it was actually contacted twice. They bought once, they bought twice, and it's been all upside since then. So I'm going to wait for new areas of demand to be created. I think maybe the daily chart is the one that I should be focusing on. So I'm going to be waiting for new areas of demand to come in on the daily chart, and then I'll look to be buying those pullbacks into demand zones. Okay. Next, we have Meta. Meta, this is a good one. This is a good one. We're getting really good signs of buying here. Now, we are at the highs. Yeah, we are really high up there. But again, let's focus our attention on the weekly time frame. And what you'll notice right away is that price is inside an institutional buying zone. Okay. So again, the banks created this area as an institutional buying area. This is an area where they are interested in buying again. And look, we are seeing those buying signs coming in once and twice. And now we're seeing the big push to the upside again. So I believe that we are likely going to be seeing a bigger move to the upside in the coming weeks. When is it going to happen? I don't know. But because this is a weekly time frame and we have a weekly demand zone here, this tells me over the medium term, we should expect price to continue moving higher. Now, do we know for a fact that they're going to continue to hold this zone and push price up? Because at the end of the day, could they drop price if they wanted to? Sure, they could. They could eventually break through this zone and cause price to go lower. But how are we going to know for certain that they're going to push price higher? Well, we got this very key area here that we're watching, okay? This was the last area of significant selling that the banks came in with, all right? So if we get up here, guess what? If they remove this area, what do you think is happening? What do you think that is telling us? That is telling us that the significant buying that's coming from down here is so significant that they're wanting to push price even higher. So we're going to watch for that. We have alerts set. We're going to watch for that area to be removed. When they create new institutional buying, by removing that, then we're going to get into long positions. So this one's setting up, guys. If you guys are interested in getting into a position on Meta, this is the way you do it, okay? You wait for the institutional buying to come into play. You need to know exactly what to watch for, but once those signals are there, then you jump on board. Microsoft is another one that I'm very much interested in. But if you take a look at the monthly time frame, you can see it's already made a big move to the upside. And in fact, we had a higher time frame target that we set all the way back in the end of 2023. And our target was hit. Here's the first target that we had, okay? And remember, our targets are strategically located using a method that we have, combining supply and demand and looking at the structure of price. We are able to locate these targets, and these targets are essentially targets that we believe that big institutions are going to use to take profits on their positions. And as you can see, the first target, when it was reached, take a look at what happened with price, okay? You see the big drop in price? Right. And you'll also notice that the RSI was well above the 60, meaning profit taking needed to take place. And again, look at our higher time frame target, okay? It's been reached, and now look at what's taking place. Look at the RSI. It's also giving a sign that profits need to be reached. So when you look at these things, what does it tell you? When profits needed to be reached, there needed to be a drop in price, right? So we're expecting some kind of a drop in price. So would I want to be buying Microsoft at these highs? Logically, it doesn't make sense to do that because price is way too high. But on the weekly time frame, and again, you'll notice we keep on going back to the weekly time frame. And that's interesting because that seems to be a common theme all throughout the Magnificent Seven stocks, where on the medium term time frames, we have big institutional areas of buying that are the areas that we're watching for an entry. If price does drop down into this area, this is the last area where very significant buying took place. And I suspect that if price was to drop back into here, there'd be another move to the upside. Now, I'm not going to buy this zone blindly. I'm going to, again, wait for price to drop into these areas. And then we'll look at the lower time frame. We'll look at the supply and demand dynamics that are playing out on the chart. And we're going to wait for them to show us signs that they are indeed accumulating a position there. Okay, it's very simple. We just do this process over and over again. We locate their buying zones and then we jump in. All right, we wait for proof of the buying off of big institutional buying zones and then we jump into our trades. So that is looking pretty good. Let's look at Nvidia. Monster winner for us. Monster winner, because if you've been following us, you'd know that we were looking at this area as a buy area, okay? When price was dropping down, we said this is the latest area of significant buying. If there's a spot price is going to rally up from, it's this area right here, okay? And that was located between $90 and $75. Look what happened. Price came down to that area below $90, as high as $190. Incredible. I know many members took long trades based on our analysis. So shot up like a rocket. Now it's at the highs. Now what do we wait for? Well, let's take a look at the weekly time frame. Here again, we have a very significant area of buying located right here. This is an area where I'd be very much interested in getting into a long position. So again, we need price to drop down to this area first, show us signs that they want to buy, and then we get in on a pullback into institutional demand. So the same thing. Would I want to be a buyer up at these highs? No, I would not want to be a buyer at these highs because we're likely going to be getting a drop in price. And if you look around and you look at the stocks and you see what some of them are starting to do, you'll see that they're already starting to show signs of the weakness. Remember Tesla? Excuse me. Remember Tesla? Remember when price dropped into the institutional buying zone on the monthly time frame? I hope you guys were following me at the time because I was trying to show you guys what is actually taking place with the stock. If you look at the monthly time frame, we had big institutional demand that was coming into play. Okay, we had price right at the highs. Okay, and we had located this big institutional buying zone right here. I said, guys, if this drops down here, watch for a big push to the upside. I got a weekly target here and a higher target here. Okay, this is what I was mentioning to everybody. And if you'd like, you can go onto the Telegram channel and do a search, type up $Tesla and see for yourself what I posted. Okay. Now remember, as price was dropping down towards this buying zone, what did we have? We had an incident with Donald Trump, right? getting into a little issue, fight, whatever you want to call it, with Elon Musk. Very public about it, okay? That was the key thing. It needed to be very public. And why do I say that? Well, because I find it interesting that as Tesla price was dropping into a major institutional zone where the banks would be interested in buying, they had this tiff where Donald Trump said, we're not going to support Tesla, we're not going to be giving them money, and talking really badly about Elon Musk. And everybody on the media started mentioning, oh, this is not good for Tesla, this and that. And guess what retail traders are doing? Retail traders were selling, okay? Selling their shares. Now, if they were following us on Telegram and on X, and if they were members of whiteoakfx.com, they would have known this was the area to be buying Tesla shares. If anything, you should have been stacking up on Tesla shares here at this area. Instead, retail traders were following the news and they were afraid. They were like, oh, what's going to happen with Tesla? Maybe it's going to drop even further. No, not if you were able to locate the institutional buying zone. Well, we located it and we mentioned to everybody in the Telegram channel, watch what happens. They're starting to buy now as everybody is selling. Guys, this is not the spot to be selling shares of Tesla. If anything, this is the area where you want to be buying. And sure enough, price dropped into the institutional buying zone. And I did snippets. I was taking a look at snippets of the news of what they were talking about on the news all across social media about Tesla. And it was all negative. And as they kept on bombarding retail traders with this negative news on Tesla, look what the banks did. They came in with buying because they needed major sellers of shares to come in with their buying. And that's what they did. They came in with their buying, aggressive buying. And it's been all upside ever since. Okay. So this is the kind of stuff that we do. This is what we try to focus our attention on, is locating the institutional buying and selling. And then sometimes we look at the news and see what's going on. We look at websites to see who are the insiders that are buying. We look at a website called Hedge Follow to see who's buying. Remember BABA? BABA was one of those major stocks I shared with members. We did a little bit of research on it, and we located some big institutional buying of BABA. Some big players buying BABA down to lows. And we knew that that was an institutional buying zone that they were buying at. And we said, listen, this one's going to be a monster mover. Monster mover. And sure enough, price shot up like a rocket in the months to come. All right. Because we were able to locate the institutional buying zone. And then we were able to validate that this area was being indeed bought up by huge investors, huge investment firms, and this is what took place. So getting back to Tesla, take a look. Our weekly target was reached. Okay, we have a higher target at 484, and let's just stop this like that. And this is where we're at right now. Okay, have we reached a higher target, 484? Not yet, but we're pausing up here. Okay, we're pausing. Now, why are we pausing? Well, I believe if we take a look at the weekly time frame, look what we happen to have here again. Big institutional buying zone. The only thing is that if the banks are indeed going to load up here again, because they were loading up here, and they were loading up here, and they were loading up here, I believe that if price was to drop down here, they're going to load up again. But think about it. Imagine you're part of this banking cartel and you know where your buying zones are because you're all buying together, causing the market to move. And the last area where you were buying from was between $320 and $360. Right now we're at $425. What they need to do is they need to drop price. They need to cause some kind of an event. They need something to happen to get price to drop down there, right? So how are you going to get people to help you drop price? Well, one of the ways that they do it is they come out with earnings that are not so good. And I believe we just had some earnings come out, right? Wednesday, the 22nd of October, after hours, we had earnings. And I don't know all the details about the earnings, but from what I'm seeing here, it looks like kind of mixed, right? Maybe not good, whatever it is. But the thing is, big institutional buying is taking place right now. And then we have earnings that are not great, all right? Look, green earnings mean good. Red earnings mean bad, okay? Red earnings, red, got you down, all right? Let me do it again. Red earnings gets priced down, and right at the lows when the banks are buying, red. Bad earnings, okay? After they bought, then it's green. And then they can explain, oh, the reason why the stock is going up is because good earnings. No, it's the banks that were buying at the lows when you were selling, okay? And now we got red again, all right? So you see what's going on here. You see this pattern. So it's a very good chance we get a drop in price down to this area. And believe you me, if they drop price down to this buying zone, 90% to 95% chance we're going to see a monster move like that. Mark my words, okay? Mark it. Mark this video. Save it. Write it down in your journal. On this date, this is what was said. If they drop this price, watch what happens. Negative earnings is already beginning this whole thing. We'll see how it continues in the months or weeks to come. So watch for this, all right? It's 10:27. 30 minutes in. I think we're good. I think we'll leave it at that. Everything good? Did you guys get a lot out of that? I hope you did. Let's see your comments. Good evening from Nigeria. Beautiful, Mohammed. Nice to see you here. Kevin, is the data which we can use to trade options or the stock market? Is there any data we can use to trade options or the stock market? I'm not sure what data you're asking for. Hello, Sensei Kevin. After stocks, I am curious to look at Euro US dollar. If you have time, price is going sideways. We didn't have a hit. Don't worry about it. This is stuff that I'll mention and talk about in the school, within the school. There's a trade that we have, a short trade. I don't want to discuss it too much because it's for members only. But if you want to get more information, whiteoakfx.com, sign up, become a student. We teach you all this stuff. We teach you how to do this analysis, the logic behind it. Okay, these are insights you're not going to find anywhere else because we're locating institutional buying and selling unlike what anybody else can do. Okay, if you don't believe me, come and join us, and I'd love to have you there. All right, my friends, good. I don't want to go too long because I think I've bored you enough. Hopefully you got something good out of that, and I will leave you with that. Okay? Thanks for joining. As always, really appreciate it. If you could help out by liking and subscribing to our channel, great. Then you'll get notified too if you hit the bell, and then you'll get more videos from us detailing what is taking place in the markets. Continue watching what I just laid out for you today, and then we'll check back in a little bit later and see what's going on in these markets. All right? Thanks again. I appreciate it. Have a good one.